A new strategy. The mountain crevice was narrow enough to conceal Kairath's body, but not deep enough to grant any real sense of safety. Two rock walls pressed close together, their surfaces cold and damp, occasionally leaking droplets that fell onto the uneven stone floor below. The light that filtered in was no more than a dim strip, just enough to distinguish day from night, nothing more. Karath crawled deeper until his back reached the tightest point of the crevice. He sat with his spine against the stone, legs stretched out before him, the torn muscle in his thigh twitching in small, uncontrollable spasms. Even the slightest movement was enough to draw a dull ache up along his spine. He did not sleep right away. Not out of fear. At least, that was how he named it, but because his body remained locked in a state of extreme alertness. His hearing strained for every sound, from the wind threading through the crevice mouth to distant stones rolling far below in the valley. Nothing approached. But Karath refused to let that lull him into a false sense of safety. Once he was certain there was no immediate movement, he began constructing shelter. Not a tent in the human sense, just a crude structure, assembled from broken branches carried down by the stream, flat stones, and strips of hide torn from the Varkel's corpse earlier. Karath carved grooves into the rock with his claws, threaded makeshift bindings from tough plant fibers, securing everything firmly enough that it would not collapse when he shifted during sleep. Every movement was slow, deliberate, calculated to waste no strength. When the temporary shelter was finished, Karath remained seated before it for a long time, studying it to ensure it blended into the environment, that it did not form lines too artificial. On this planet, anything that stood out invited danger. He slipped inside, curled his body inward back against stone, breathing gradually slowing. Only then, when the pain faded from sharp insistence into a constant throb, did Karath allow himself to think. Not about honor, not about the trophy ledger. Those things would not keep him alive for even one more heartbeat. Instead, he thought about why he had been at a disadvantage. Fragments of past encounters surfaced in no particular order, but Karath did not need to arrange them. A hunter's instinct, long trained, separated useful data from chaos without effort. The swamp, the horned grazer, the Varkel, the small pack. The common factor emerged with almost insulting clarity. His technology did not work. His camouflage failed to mask presence, plasma was reflected, thermal sensors were blinded, energy weapons were absorbed or neutralized. Karath clenched his jaw. This planet did not defeat Yautja through superior force. It did something far more subtle. It forced the hunter to fight without his weapons. He lowered his gaze to his own hands, dark claws stained with dried blood. These were not disrupted, not reflected, not powered by energy. Teeth and claws, the very things the code of the hunt deemed inferior, were the only tools that functioned reliably. Karath closed his eyes and began cataloging each encountered species into tactical memory. Varkel, biocrystalline hide, plasma reflective, air vibration detection, no energy weapons, no frontal engagement, strike from above, lock the throat, kill quickly, teeth and crushing force, no prolonged struggle. He touched his mandibles lightly, just where traces of metallic taste and mineral residue still lingered. Horned grazer, true position sensing, not dependent on sight, no cloaking, no ambush, lure into narrow terrain, break balance, avoid direct confrontation. He remembered the moment the horns had swept past him, the ground trembling each time the creature shifted direction. Powerful, but not agile. Everything had limits. Small packs, formation-based attacks, never stay still, never allow encirclement, break rhythm, create chaos, smoke, water, fractured terrain. Karath tilted his head slightly. Packs were the most dangerous, not because individuals were strong, but because they did not need to win quickly. They only needed to wait until the prey collapsed. He opened his eyes. A truth settled in, heavy and unavoidable. If he continued to hunt like a Yautja, he would die like prey. Karath inhaled deeply, letting the cold air fill his lungs, feeling each stab of pain rise and fall with his breath. He would not abandon technology entirely, but he would no longer rely on it. From now on, each species would be treated as a distinct threat. No universal solution, no ultimate weapon. Only observation, memory, and action taken when the odds of survival tipped in his favor. Karath shifted, adjusting his posture to ease pressure on the wounded thigh. The pain remained, a constant reminder that time was not on his side. But for the first time since setting foot on this planet, his thoughts were no longer chaos. Outside the crevice, the wind grew stronger, carrying the damp scent of deep forest and cold stone. Somewhere far away, a creature roared, then fell silent. Karath closed his eyes and let his body rest, knowing the sleep would be shallow and brief. Tomorrow, he would have to move, to test, to hunt, not for glory, but to avoid being swallowed by this planet.